Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another episode of First Impressions. Now it's time for me to talk about a 1960 black comedy horror film directed by Roger Corman. It's a film I've been meaning to watch for a while. I saw in October it was going to be on Turner Classic Movies, so I hit record and didn't get around to watching it right away, but it's that time where I gotta start watching a lot of the films that I recorded on the DVR so we can get more room and I don't risk them getting auto-deleted. And this is one I'm like, it's the shortest one, might as well get it out of the way. And I can say I did enjoy the film, but it might not be one that I ever choose to watch again, unless I'm watching it back-to-back with its musical remake from the 80s. But it was decent, it was a time waster. Definitely shows it was made with a low budget for its day, $28,000, which is a low budget now, but it probably went a lot further back in the 60s, but that was still a low budget for filmmaking if you think about it, and the effects for the plant do show. Of course, the film is The Little Shop of Horrors. In addition to being directed and produced by Roger Corman, the screenplay is written by Charles B. Griffith, who has a small role in the film, and it stars Jonathan Haze, Jackie Joseph, Mel Welles, Dick Miller, and it even has in a small role a very, very, very young Jack Nicholson, which, according to the epilogue that Turner Classic Movies had for the showing I recorded, which was done by Ron Perlman, by the way, which, the moment I saw that, I'm like, hey, Ron Perlman, that's cool. When he was filming his scene, he only had the pages of the script that involved his scene, and the other parts of that script were given out to the other actors, and he said, that's low-budget filmmaking at its best. And his scene, apparently, he never got a chance to finish because they were in the middle of it. Something technically went wrong with the dental equipment. Corman jumped in, pulled it away, and said, next scene, that's a wrap for that. And they just went from there. Because with that, the film was apparently shot in 2.5 days, which is one of the things you can tell. On one hand, I'm impressed that they managed to get a salvageable film in 2.5 days, and just watching it, it's like, yeah, you can kind of tell it was filmed in a hurry, but it still looks decent for that. But then also, you probably, if you could have done it in like maybe a week at least, you could have gotten like some better shots. But I guess the way it was filmed kind of adds a little bit to the black humor of it. And apparently the film incorporates black humor with farce and Jewish humor and elements of spoof. Now, Jewish humor, other than some Mel Brooks stuff, I don't fully get. Spoof I do get, which I can see farce and spoof in here. Maybe that's one of the things that might take a couple watches to appreciate more, but the dark humor stuff I really did like. Like, there's a moment that stands out near the end of the film where these schoolgirls are the only ones that do not act in revulsion when the revelation about the plant is given. Instead, they walk up to the plant and they're admiring it even more, like, ooh, this looks so cute. That got a good chuckle out of me because I'm like, the high school girls are the only ones that don't act in revulsion to this thing. Oh, that's my kind of black humor. Anyway, the plot of the film, it takes place in LA Skid Row, and it revolves around a handful of characters. First, we got the penny-pinching Mr. Mushnick, Wells' character, who is the owner of a florist shop, which is staffed by him and 2 employees. We got the sweet but simple Audrey, that's Jackie Joseph's character, and the clumsy Seymour, which is Jonathan Haze. Now, of course, since this is the first time actually watching the film, this is the first time seeing what these versions of the characters look like, and then seeing Haze's Seymour, it's like, I could see why they picked Rick Moranis for the remake. And Haze embodies his version of the character, just like from what little I've seen, Moranis embodies his version of it. And from the get-go, you can see that Seymour is clumsy, which you wonder, okay, is this going to add into the whole thing? Which it does, because he reveals to his boss right before he gets fired that he has a plant he's working on, which turns out to be the plant Audrey Jr., which is a combination of a butterwort and a Venus flytrap. The plant's dying, and he does not know what to do, and he accidentally cuts himself. The plant says, feed me, and he gives it some of his blood, and the plant blooms. Next night, plant says, feed me again. He goes walking around town trying to figure out what to do, and he accidentally kills a guy at a train yard. He doesn't directly kill it, but what he did leads to the guy dying, so it would be involuntary manslaughter at minimum. Anyway, he decides to take the body away, and then slowly he figures out to dispose of the body, which the disposal method does kind of betray a little bit more of the film's low budget. Anyway, in the middle of it, Mushnick finds out, which now it's a secret between him and Mushnick, which ties into some of the humor for the remainder of the film when Seymour has to feed the plant, or the plant ends up feeding, one of which involves Mushnick and the writer's cameo. I'm not going to spoil any more in details about that, but as the plant gets bigger, it attracts more attention to the shop, something that Dick Miller's character told Mushnick would happen. They get more money, and it eventually leads to this one botanical group finding out about Seymour and his plant, and this leads into the scene at the end where everybody finds out about the plant, the real truth behind the plant. I'm not going to spoil the stuff with that, but that is a dark, humorous scene. And it has a dark ending, but it is a dark comedic ending. I'm not going to say more than that. The only problem I have with it is, like, that's very abrupt, but for the type of ending it is, I guess it works. Nothing really else to say about the film. I mean, the acting is okay for what this type of film is, especially with the rush. I mean, they all play their parts pretty well. Probably the highlight of that is to see Nicholson in his little cameo, where his character is a masochist who's going to the dentist. Now, just the look on his face, to smile, it's like, yeah, that's Jack Nicholson. I know some people for certain films will say, oh, it's just Jack Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson. I'd say that's kind of a weird way to say he's typecast in certain roles, but alright. This one, yeah, I could see that a little bit, but there's not really much to his character. Just act crazy because you're a masochist. It works, especially that trademark Nicholson grin. Just the weird thing to see about this film is how young he was. Let me look up exactly how old he was real quick. Wow. According to this, he would have been around 23, 24 when he filmed this film. That's young. Very young. You could tell in his face he still has that baby face. But it kind of adds to the charm of his performance, I guess. And, you know, Dick Miller's always good to see. Haze and the other ones, like I said, do good for what they have to do. The score is okay. Filming, I've already mentioned stuff about that. For the amount of time they had, it's decent, but could have been improved if they had actually decided not to rush it. But Corman being Corman, he's not going to do that. Film is only 72 minutes, so it's not that long. It doesn't waste a lot of your time. So if you come across it or you're curious about watching it, either because you're a fan of the musical or getting into Corman films, or you just want to watch Jack Nicholson's films in general, I'd definitely say it's worth at least one watch.